Inside the Birds is back, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. What's going on? Yeah, Geoff, Mosher, Adam Caplan. Why so much emphasis? Because football, Adam, is back, at least preseason football. But it was fun to see the guys out there hitting, tackling, passing, all that stuff that you really don't see in 2 weeks of training camp. But I have to start the show by saying this, Adam. What I remember of the preseason is totally gone. It's done. It's like we've been reshifting our focus on training camp and the reduced practices out and that. But even preseason games now, it used to be a formula, right? Like let's say you're covering the Eagles like we did 2008. All right, preseason game, first game, McNabb and the first team offense. They're going to go out there for maybe like one drive, first game. Maybe two drives. We always joke about the one time where Donovan played 3 snaps and came out, right?
And he said he wanted to touch grass.
Right. He wanted him to touch grass. It was the greatest quote ever. So so Donovan comes out. Then the backup quarterback comes in, plays like most of the rest of the first half, and then your third string quarterback plays third quarter. Your fourth string quarterback plays the fourth quarter, right? And it was formulaic. It was like starter, backup, third stringer, trying to make a team, fourth stringer, camp body. The Ravens in this game against the Eagles the other night, what were they doing? Like they start the game with Josh Johnson, a guy who's been on like 312 different teams in the last 6 years, right? Then they go, did Anthony Brown come in after? Either way, they go to their actual backup, Tyler Huntley, like later in the game, right? It's like, were they really trying to win the game?
I don't know.
What's going on?
It's funny. The Ravens practice more than any NFL team. I'll be there tomorrow when they host the Commandos. They go sometimes 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Right.
It's painful because it's always humid there in Owings Mills. So anyway, it was weird. Yeah, it was. I'll tell you, I can't wait to break this game down. You and I have talked to a lot of people about it. So we usually don't.
It's gonna be fun.
We just happened to talk to some people around the league who were looking at the Eagles tape, I guess, or watched the game on TV, but they thought they had a pretty good idea. Whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
Very odd because you're right. It's formulaic. Game one, and by the way, it's pretty universal around the league when they would go. Starters would play a couple series. The second game, a quarter and a half. Third game is a dress rehearsal, which is a half into the third quarter. Belichick was pissed off with his players one year. He played him like almost the entire game one time.
I remember that. But even like same thing with the Eagles. Like it doesn't matter what their focus, what they might be thinking. If this were 10 years ago and a different regime, like you would have seen Ian Book come in before Tanner McKee because Ian Book has been with the team for a year. He's been in the NFL for a few years. Tanner McKee's a rookie. And to see Tanner come in before Ian Book was a little interesting. I was right. That's how it went. Yeah. McKee came in before Ian Book. So, I was like, wow, everything I remember about the preseason, it's not formulaic. None of the starters obviously play. We knew most starters weren't going to play, but then sort of a surprise to see DeAndre Swift and Rashad Penny out there. So it's like, we can't, it used to be formulaic. It used to be easy. Now it's like, wow, what am I going to see today that I haven't seen?
On Mike Gill's show last Friday, it's exactly what I said in our segment Football 4. I go, you can't predict this stuff anymore. It's really odd. For instance, the Panthers played their entire defense against the Jets. They have 27 points, except they kept Brian Burns out. But okay, that's big. But they played their entire secondary. They started. Yeah, their secondary started.
Right.
Their D-line started. It was really, I don't know what the hell's going on with this stuff. Did you miss one game? What is going on here? Anyway.
I know. No, but listen, I think we can understand, knowing the Eagles as we know them now and how they're structured, why you would not play a whole bunch of starters when you have joint practices coming up 2 days later that are usually more physical and more intense anyway. And then you're the first team to play, you and the Browns, right? The first team to play preseason week 2, which is Thursday night. I don't think there's a game. Well, is there a Monday night game? No. Is there? Is there a game tonight? No. So I get it. It's like a short turnaround to physical practices, then a short turnaround to your next preseason game. So I understand the thinking there, but I do remember thinking the game, I'm like, there's no possible way that the reason that Boston Scott and Kenneth Gainwell aren't suited up tonight is because bam, their roles are so certain. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. And then after the game, Nick Sirianni said, I got 5 guys. I got to figure out them all. It might be next week that Boston and Kenneth Gainwell are playing and Swift and Penny aren't. And I'm like, okay, that might make more sense.
Yeah, I got his. They're not the only team to do it this preseason. I mean, this past weekend, but it was just a little. It was interesting just the way they did it. But look, there's a ton of talk about it. Really interesting game. Typically, with the first preseason game, you don't see that because, as Geoff was saying, when we had 4 games, none of the starters would play, none of the key players would play. It would just be a bunch of backups, and the TV ratings might not be as good as they normally would be because fans started to figure it out after series years. Now, as you said, it's so different now. There's no rhyme, no reason by team how they do it. But the cool thing is, so many players did play. We told you this 2 months ago. The training camp battle is going to be fascinating. It's been a little bit better than I expected. There's been really good development of the back end cornerbacks. Some of the linebackers or Christian Ellis. He had one play that wasn't great, but overall you could see this guy's explosive. Got to see Nolan Smith start in this game. That was fun to see.
Yeah.
Joe Ngata continues to do it. He had a couple plays called back, but let me tell you, this guy's had a great camp, really from the first practice.
Yep.
Come on, a lot of good stories. As you said, the Swift thing completely flummoxed me. I was like, why is he starting with this injury?
I know. It's crazy.
Okay.
By the way, I'm feeling really good right now about my prediction on our InsideTheBirds.com preview leading into training camp about Joseph Ngata being Mr. All Novacare. So far, I'm feeling pretty good about that. Now, he might screw around and actually make the 53. Well, then I got to give him the credit for that.
Now I may want to be wrong about this. Who put him on the early 53 back in May?
Yeah, I remember you did that too. Yeah, you did. You did. Now, I think Andrew on his second one did too. All 3 of us at one point have blown up Joseph Ngata.
I just felt like they haven't had that real big possession receiver.
Yeah.
Who could, we had pretty good intel on him from around the league, just about, kind of what he brings to the table. I know his numbers weren't great. There were just a couple of knocks on him, but man, you can't beat size. Like he's had some really good plays, and we'll get into what happened in the game. But it was interesting. And Josh Andrews did start. Yeah, they threw him into the fire right away.
Definitely. All right. So we'll break down this game. We'll give you the intel. Of course, we'll talk real quickly about some of the new contracts that were brought on with linebackers. And we know the Eagles are going to have a short turnaround and get started on their joint practices with the Browns, which are always fun. They are slated, just so everybody knows, for Tuesday and Wednesday, beginning at 5:00 p.m. Now, this is definitely new. This reeks of the Eagles and the Browns coaches having to come to an agreement here, because the Eagles never practice that late in the evening. So that's an interesting one.
So the Browns typically practice at 2 p.m. Not every day when they practice, but most days that Stefanski, the head coach of the Browns, likes to do that. But to move it to 5:00, I was like,
yeah, that's not even meeting in the middle. That's like, well, then let's just do it at night.
Yeah, other than the evening practice of the Eagles, just looking at my tour, because West Coast, okay, like the Rams. Now the Rams do practice a lot late in the day. They practice at like 4:30 Pacific time. And their practices, I know like they've, they're big into sports science in terms of practices and all that, but their practices are longer than here. My gosh, that was a surprise that I had last summer. I thought they were only going to be an hour and a half. They were 2.5 hours, some of them. But this one should be 2 hours later today, and I'll be at both. I look forward to that. And look, the Eagles, I'll tell you, talking to the Browns, they were super impressed with the Eagles roster last year. They were right about what they saw. Coaches know, front office people know when they watch. And some of it was live, how they felt, how the Eagles did very well against them. The other part was that when they watch the practice tape, like, oh, wow, this roster's good. I know someone with the Browns said to me, boy, they're really deep. Like when they went through sort of the way the Eagles would rotate in practice. Now that I'm be interested to see how this goes this week, because the Browns had a very good free agency. They were very aggressive. Andrew Berry was there, and there are a bunch of Eagle ties there. Jim Schwartz. We mentioned Andrew Berry. Who else is? The safety, Rodney McLeod, right? Isn't he there?
Is he with the Browns? Yeah, you know what? I think you're right. I think he might be.
There's other guys there, and obviously Chuck Walls came from Cleveland.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of Browns Eagles ties now all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So real quickly, we have started our Inside the Birds 2023 fantasy football preview. So if you haven't checked it out yet, we start off with quarterbacks this week. Myself, Adam, Andrew DeCecco did a 20-minute video, gave you our top 5 quarterbacks, some breakout candidates, some guys we're fading, we think declining players, and then also some late round sleepers you might want to grab hold of. So we did quarterbacks this week. Also on InsideTheBirds.com, Tuesday and Thursday, I'll have my own quarterbacks preview. Andrew will have his quarterbacks preview, and we'll do running backs next week. The following week will be wide receivers, and after that, we'll close it out with tight ends. So that's 4 weeks of fantasy football previews that begin each week on Monday with a video with me, Adam, and Andrew. And then throughout the week on Tuesday and Thursday, there'll be content on InsideTheBirds.com. So if you're trying to get ready for your draft, there's no other place to go but other than InsideTheBirds.com, because we got you covered from video to podcast to website.
And you are so high on Anthony Richardson. I mean, you've been saying this for like 4 months now, so we'll see.
I'm high on him as a fantasy football, high-scoring fantasy football quarterback.
Look,
absolutely.
You saw it last year when the Bears wouldn't let Justin Fields throw. He still was a top 10 fantasy quarterback, as you pointed out.
Yep.
You'll be pointing out on this one because we just taped it.
Yeah.
It's eventually it was a good little debate there. We the three of us, I enjoyed that, and I look forward to doing that. And but also again, the Patreon people, my goodness gracious, it's been overwhelming. We cannot thank you enough. We just got new people: Andrew, Greg, another Andrew, Devin, Thomas, David, Kirk, Mervin. We can't thank you guys enough, because the money goes back into our company in terms of paying people, not only paying people, but we're working on a major announcement. We can't announce it yet, but to say like this will be the biggest thing we've ever done,
it's pretty good. I'll say that it'll be the best we've given. What we're working on, as Adam's alluding to, will be a really good addition to our Patreon members. It'll be something that they'll really appreciate coming up this season. So once we get dot the T's and cross the I's, we'll announce it. But you might as well get on now, because
I can't. Yeah, and so what do you have? Oh, by the way, the chat this week is going to be during the game. We're going to do this. We're going to see how it works.
Nice.
8 p.m. Eastern. We're going to do it this week, and if it goes well, we're going to do it again during the game, the third game. I want to see. I want to see if we had nice turnout last week, but I would assume during a game, because people like to talk during a game.
Yeah,
I enjoy that. I enjoy going back and forth with people, because people do it on Twitter. So why not do it on our Discord chat? So we'll do that. And also, because we've heard a great feedback from this, for people when you're going away or you're on vacation, want to get caught up in our recent interviews with former Eagles president Joe Banner on so many issues. It was phenomenal. Chuck Pagano, who Shaun Desai coached under for 2 years with the Bears. John DeFilippo, also the former Eagles quarterbacks coach, who's known Shaun for decades and coached with Shaun with the Bears for 1 year. They go back to their days in Boston College. And our chats, we've got a live stream coming up. We're hoping to do 2. We're definitely going to do one around the 53 deadline, the initial 53-man deadline on the 29th.
Mm-hmm.
And if we could shoehorn one we're going to do it for you guys. We love you guys and we appreciate it. And can't thank you enough. We're kind of overwhelmed by the response. And then the other one, the big one, is we're looking to have a special meetup in Philly. We're going to put a vote up soon, probably week and a half, as we get closer to the end of August, to see all you guys when we could work it out. And particularly, obviously, the people who live in the area, New Jersey, Delaware, Philly, Connecticut, if we want to drive in, because we know we had some people in Connecticut who are Patreon people. So we look forward to all that's coming up.
100%. Good stuff. Reminder, Inside the Birds is powered by our friends at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. It is the exclusive Jersey Shore resort of Inside the Birds. All right, let's talk about the game. We'll start off. We mentioned that, Kenneth Gainwell didn't play. Boston Scott did not play. They didn't even dress, if I'm not mistaken. Look, we know Kenneth Gainwell is part of the Eagles' plans. So, yeah, this reminds me, didn't Myles Sanders not play in the preseason opener 2 years ago, and people tried to read into it?
Yep.
Are they trading him or something? Yeah.
Look, Josh Jacobs Josh Jacobs playing the Hall of Fame game last year, and the Raider fans were out of their minds thinking, what are they doing? Why would they play him? A game means no one. The starters typically don't play in the Hall of Fame game. because you get it, that counts as an extra game. So yeah, it was weird. So but Olamide Zaccheaus did not play, and he was not injured. I don't understand that.
Yeah, that was very strange. So maybe maybe he's reached AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, Quez Watkins. Although he said Quez didn't play with a hamstring, but he didn't. I guess Nick Sirianni didn't say if he definitely would have played had he not had a little hamstring tweak. It's all kind of cloudy and nebulous, but
Yeah,
right, it is weird that Olamide did not play.
Britton Covey did not play. Yeah,
right. They will hamstring as well. Yeah, so they say.
Well, look, he's had. Yeah, I mean they've been pretty. I'll give the Eagles credit for one thing. They've been pretty straight up with these injuries. We appreciate that because
definitely.
Most teams don't do an injury report. It's very helpful. So that way nobody has to guess.
But neither of these guys were ever on the injury report, and they were only doing the day before they were at the last practice, and then they were in I think the day before walkthrough. So I'm wondering if it's just that they've been practicing through it, and he just didn't want to stress it.
I think Thursday maybe that something happened. Maybe they had a little set or just a little tightness in their hamstring, whatever the case. They held them out. And the thing that floored me, Zach McPherson returned punts.
Yeah, how about that? Well, how about Trey Sermon returning kicks?
Yeah, he was the only kickoff return. I guess this is the way I see what Sirianni did here. We know that they've had Boston Scott, Rashad Penny returning kicks, and somebody else. Okay, why not try Trey Sermon? Okay,
sure. That's what the preseason's for.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I was going here. So okay, that's what they did. It was just we haven't seen anything. This has been really this has kind of floored me because I don't remember seeing or hearing that McPherson was returning punts. I'm sure he had to do it. They just wouldn't throw him out there without him doing it in practice. It's just he hadn't done it since college. So this is fascinating. I got a lot out of this game. Usually preseason games you don't, but this was a pretty cool game.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Let's just finish it off on Kenneth Gainwell because we mentioned in a recent podcast. Well, he's clearly in the Eagles' plans, and he could be more headed for a prominent role this year. We'll see.
Oh, yeah.
One of the things that kind of held him back or holds him back is that you just haven't seen any kind of Miles Sanders-ish like explosion from him, or when you talk about explosive running backs, guys that break big plays, and he does get into the open field. He's had some good gains, but not second gear type of gains where he just ratchets it up. And we mentioned that I think he only has one career gain of more than 24 yards in his career. Now he did have the one in the Super Bowl of 35 yards. We usually talk about regular season stats. So we'll give him 2 career runs of over 20 yards. But at the same time, Adam, he's kind of been given a role, especially last year, where you're the 2-minute back or you're the short yardage back, where there's not a lot of yards to gain either in those situations if you're just trying to be a short yardage guy. So you saw it with DeAndre Swift on the first play. He catches the ball, he turns up, and then you saw his run where he cuts it. He's got some explosion to him. Do you think Kenneth Gainwell will always be sort of limited in certain part because of the lack of explosion that we talked about?
So yeah, it was the 35-yard play against the Giants, by the way.
That's right. Not the Super Bowl. Yeah, that's the Giants.
He had a great game. Like that was good. No, see, I remember we got some questions about why Gainwell was not catching the ball enough. And then when he did, why were the explosive plays? And we kind of defended him. We go, it's coming. They're trying. It's just not working yet. Then we asked a lot of people, look at the Eagles tape over there. Well, what is the issue with Gainwell? Like why this guy was so great? We know he didn't play in 2020 because of the COVID year. He took the year off. We understand why he dropped. That's part of why he dropped. But boy, he just was used in a really unique way. We talked to Ryan Silverfield, his head coach. Remember, we had him on our show.
Yeah.
And I remember following up with Ryan this summer, and Ryan did not see him as a sure yardage back. They really didn't use him that way. Well, I talked to my friends at fantasypoints.com who have the best. They have the best data that I've seen for really offensive players. It's remarkable. And I love PFF, but it's better than PFF. It's unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just talking to those guys over the weekend, and we were talking about Gainwell. We were talking with the Eagles, and they said, hey, you should know this, that by our metrics, he's the best short yardage runner in the National Football League the last 2 seasons. I said, Gainwell, I know he's been great. And he goes, yeah, he's amazing. He doesn't really take negative runs. You should also know he's only had one play of 20 yards or more in his career during the regular season.
Right.
And that's what we were talking about last week. The tape shows he doesn't have the juice that DeAndre Swift has.
Right.
That's why I said Gainwell inside grinder, Swift outside explosion. Let's move this forward. Did you see that play that he had in this preseason game? If that doesn't belie what we just told you,
yeah,
we told you last week that everything we say is tape based. We don't guess.
Right.
It's from people around the league who watch tape. From their mouth to us, this is what they see. Gainwell's not been that guy, but guess what? He's still effective.
Right.
Now, it doesn't mean his third year, maybe with Brian Johnson as the OC, maybe he sees Gainwell differently than Shane Steichen did with the play caller. Who knows? But guess what? It's working. Gainwell's an inside grinder, short yardage conversion, plenty of 4, 5, 6, 7-yard runs. Coaches believe around the National Football League, any run over 4 yards is explosive. 5 yards is explosive.
Mm-hmm.
So he's had plenty of those, but he doesn't have the big juice runs like Swift has, like he crushed the Eagles last year.
Yeah, it's just really a turn of the table from what the perception was coming out of Memphis. And not just our perception,
Right.
even personnel people. He caught the ball at Memphis so much that people said he was more like a wide receiver than a running back. And usually when those guys come into the league, they're A, explosive, and B, they catch a lot of passes naturally. They look smooth. We saw him struggle with that early on last year, just kind of catching the ball was clunky, a couple interceptions off balls that didn't, like bounce off his fingertips. But he's been a success story as a 5th-round pick because surprisingly, he's been a really good, you just said, a decisive runner, a between the tackles runner. That's another thing that personnel people told us, that his running tape at Memphis was very typical of a running back / receiver. He bounced to the outside a lot. They weren't sure if he'd be patient through the hole. Well, he has been. He's been a really good patient inside runner, and he's sort of reinvented himself at the NFL level, as you just mentioned, as a short yardage, between the tackles, 2-minute drill guy, instead of what you thought he was going to be. It's very odd.
By the way, he very well could be their cornerback back. When they have a lead, he might be this is, again, like you said.
Yeah.
This is complete opposite of what we expected or any NFL person thought. So, he's got a role. Swift is oh God, that run he had, we'll get to that in a couple of minutes, was so beautifully done.
I'm telling you, it's going to be hard to keep him off the field. I know that they probably want to specialize him into a pass catching running back role, but you saw the run, right? I mean,
I was
a talented man.
I mean, no offense to Gainwell. For those of you who've been with a while, you know how crazy I was. I said the Eagles need to draft Gainwell, because I think part of it was from the people we spoke with. I think Cosell came on our show for the draft, and he loved them. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm in. This is the guy I want the Eagles to get. This is the guy. I didn't know what round he'd go in, but I'm like, this guy is so great. Greg said he lined up the X position.
Yeah.
And I talked to the kid with who was there after Gainwell at Memphis, the guy that Steelers drafted.
Oh, Calvin Austin?
Yes.
No.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, you nailed it. I talked to Austin last week, and Austin was telling me how they're using him with the Steelers as a gadget guy.
That's, what, I'm, not to get too off the Eagles, but that's a guy I'm excited for. The same way, no one wants to hear this being an Eagles fan, but I think that the Giants, I'll say, would be very excited to see what Wan'Dale Robinson does coming up this year too, as just, these 2nd-round receivers who have some juice to them. I think both of those guys could be, if they're healthy, can be all right.
Wan'Dale's come back from the ACL. In fact,
so was Calvin, right?
No, Calvin also had Litzfron.
Oh man, that's sometimes that can be worse.
He was coming back, and I talked about Deuce Staley's injury because the first time I ever heard of it was with Deuce Staley. He said it was a Litzfron injury, and then it healed, and then something popped in week 3. He started practicing, and he tore it, and he had the full-blown Litzfron, and it took him. And now he said, he would know, that he was given 9 months to recover. He got back in 6, which is a credit to him. And he looked, apparently, I didn't see the tape yet, but apparently he had an unbelievably dynamic play in their game against the Bucs. So yeah.
Well, again, excited for the young crop of wide receivers here in their 2nd year, especially that guy in Pittsburgh, not named Calvin Austin, the big fellow from Georgia. I think if as long as the offensive coordinator lets him air it out, I think Pickens is going to be great, but that's for another show. Back to the game. So the one thing that jumped out at me, let's talk about the starting offensive line for this game. We'll get to Shaun Bradley in a second. When we get to defense, we'll talk about his injury and everything like that. It was the first team offensive line for the game was basically your second team offensive line. It did not surprise me, Adam, that Josh Andrews was out there at center when we were on last week with Clay Harbor. And by the way, big thanks to Clay. Great feedback. It was a wonderful podcast. Couldn't even believe it was like an hour and 20 when we were all done. I got to be careful with that when we have guests. I just ramble, I guess. But
Good,
we pointed out how Brett Toth was just sailing balls over in his snaps. He's not a natural center. Even you and I on the previous podcast you were on with me, we talked about Jeff Stoutland can say what he wants, but Brett Toth is not a natural center. Josh Andrews is a center. So it didn't surprise me to see him out there already, bam, with the sort of first team in a preseason game at center.
Right. And honestly, they had some good moments. There's no question about it. They had some moments that could have been better. The second team offensive line that came in after these guys, they had some moments which weren't great, but so it went left to right as we expect. Steen started at left tackle. When I say that, it kind of the hint that was coming through practice was, okay, they cross-train at left tackle. He may wind up being the second team left tackle, not the second team right guard. He may or may not be. It's just they have to get through the rest of preseason. So
right,
maybe he starts at right guard the next time or takes over at right guard for Juergens next week. Josh Sills, he again thrown in the fire. It's wow, that was quick. He started, as you mentioned, Andrews, Shaw, Pettit started right guard, and Jack Driscoll could obviously play guard. A right tackle played right tackle. And Mariota got the start. He had some throws that were not quite where they needed to be. Then he made some better throws. As we talked about last week, his wheels are great. Boy, remember talking to the Raiders, he just was not healthy when he had them. His legs weren't great. Boy, he's healthy, but it's just, he needs to calm down and not play so fast because the arm strength isn't the problem. The accuracy still is challenging, but and we also, by the way, the last practice week, he was better when the offensive line gained protection. He also settled down in practice. So that was a good thing. But again, he's been very up and down, more down than up in training camp.
Yeah, I thought the first drive, you saw some issues up front. And then they started, the offensive line I'm talking about, started to get their legs a little bit more and, get into the flow of the game. It's never surprising to me when the first drive of a game is of the first preseason game is a little sloppy. But I do think some of those linemen, Tyler Steen especially, I want to do a little more homework because I thought his first few snaps were rough, but then he sort of got a lot better as the game went on, at left tackle especially. So we'll get some. I don't know if you have more on that, but I'm aiming to get a little more intel on that as the days go. And then, didn't you think there were a few throws by Mariota where he was okay as far as protected? Like he tried to throw a screen or an out, and it went like 20 yards over to. Not, I'm being facetious, but it went way over.
Really off.
Yeah.
But we've all seen in training camp, those who have been there, he's had some throws. You go, where's this going? Like
right.
What? And unfortunately, it's exactly the same issue we had with Atlanta. You want to know why Kyle Pitts struggled before he got hurt? And nothing to do with the player, the tight end. It had to do with quarterback. Mariota, just his accuracy was off.
Right.
So he's healthy. There's nothing wrong with him physically anymore. He just has to settle down, and they'll keep coaching him up. And look, he's making $5 million this season, fully guaranteed. Needs to be better than this. But the big story was Tanner McKee. Wow.
That was impressive. I know the Eagles were pleased with Adam, how he knew where he wanted to go with the ball, which was pretty evident. I thought, you could tell he could, like, for example, there was the play he hit Johnny King on, right? It was who's that guy?
Oh,
nice throw. I think he recognized it looked like a cover 3. So we always talk about when a team's going to play a cover 3, right? You got those hash marks, the seams are going to be open, right? Cover 1, cover 3, bam, you can hit that. And if you manipulate the safety, then come back and make the throw, you can put it in there. And he did to Johnny King. But then obviously to throw some back shoulder like that to was it Tyree Cleveland he hit with the back shoulder?
Yes, it's a great throw. And this throw to King, if you watch it in TV copy.
He's a big dude too, by the way, Johnny King.
It's from SEMO, Southeast Missouri State. Yeah, that actually used to be it's still a decent basketball school. But anyway, the Colts, if you wonder who he is, the Colts cut him a couple weeks ago. Eagles claimed him. Actually, no, he passed the waivers on claim. The Eagles signed him. They threw him in there, and man, that was a nice play. boy, I love the. Now I'll say this: but the protection for the most part for McKee was good, and he delivered. I
Mhm.
know. I know the accuracy was not great because there were some throws he missed because the protection I think also sometimes broke down. But he stood tall in the pocket. That's what you want. He is tall, and he drove the football on his back foot and drove the football down there. Not unbelievable, great throws, like really, really good throws. And that throw to King, if you watch it, he takes a step to his right and throws it back. You watch him on YouTube.
Mhm.
It just was a really big time NFL throw. Like, I don't care who they're playing against. That's an NFL throw. You want to see that? He doesn't
Right.
control who he goes up against. That was a great throw.
Yeah, no, and again, like for a guy, I mean, I think it's pretty clear why he's got more time and more snaps than Ian Book. I mean, he looked like the more impressive quarterback, the guy who
Yeah.
knew where he wanted to go with the ball. I thought Ian Book kind of held on to the ball long, looked indecisive at times. And listen, I know he's playing with.
He was under siege. Oh,
I get that. I
oh,
totally get that.
oh.
But
He didn't
I
look that
felt
well.
he also like if you know you're gonna be under siege, you got to know what you want. You got to have your plan, and it didn't seem like you
Yeah.
had the plan.
He's very mechanical. He's not a natural thrower. He's a great athlete, scrambler. Great, the word around the league is with him is that he's great for your quarterback room, which is important for coaches. I know that talking to quarterback coaches for the last 20 some odd years, it's important.
Hmm.
But you got to be able to throw the football, and McKee throws it better. Like, it's funny in training camp, you watch McKee, and you just don't see him driving the ball downfield much. I
Right.
don't. Who knows what the situation is there? It's only they know. But boy, I did not know what to expect, and this was pretty impressive. Because look, when you're playing with backup players, yeah, sure, you probably play with these guys, but when the lights go on, you hope it looks good. And Tyree Cleveland showed up. Remember, this guy was drafted by Denver, wasn't
He played for the Broncos. Yeah,
he?
he's one of the few guys who's actually got NFL
Yeah,
experience. He's got a nice big body.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, no, I was actually impressed for him to have that kind of rhythm with McKee to be able to go back shoulder that early in a preseason game.
yes. And then Ngata had two plays called back. He had the deep catch. I get they called him for an OPI.
Yeah.
I watched it like 6 times. All right, fine. And then he had a TD, which was it was an awesome play in the back of the end zone. But he clearly he had a half foot out of bounds. It was the right call, but
Mhm.
the effort was great. This guy shows up like every practice.
Right. So so is he going to be the guy? And then we got a lot of weeks left, couple weeks left here, but are the Eagles going to look at him and say, I can get him through waivers onto my practice squad? I mean, I know it seems like no, we always say no, but I mean, wide receivers are there are as good as Ngata has looked. There are probably 10 to 15 6'3" wide receivers in camps right now doing some good things.
Well, but by the way, Johnny King, they just got. He had
Yeah.
a big 6'4" plus. Tyree Cleveland's over 6'2". Yeah, I get it, but their depth is not great. I mean, now Zacchaeus, I know Zacchaeus has had a good week. Last week was better,
Mm-hmm.
but we know he's capable. The guy started a bunch of games for the Falcons, so we know he's much better than he's shown.
Right.
You just worry about if they need these guys to play more than they normally would because of an injury to Brown or Smith. You hope they could show up. Overall here, it's going to be fascinating to see what happens with that 5 job. He was open to start camp. You always start undrafted free agents with 13. He moved up immediately, just like Blankenship did. Now, Blankenship was better comparatively than Ngata's been this year, but it's another great story. The Eagles have had this great history. Harry Roseman and his staff done a great job of finding these guys, these undrafted
Yeah.
free agents. So
Yeah. The
How many games
Ngata
that-
thing is still confounding me, Adam, because it's not like, all right, so sometimes receivers go undrafted because nobody's heard of them. They're playing on a small Adam Thielen, right? He pops
Yeah.
up on their athletic testing
And by the
thing.
way, how the hell did Spielman not draft him? He's in the backyard.
I know, in their backyard, right? But I mean, he plays at what, Mankato State? I forget where exactly, right? I mean, you can understand how even
Come on, Rick.
he would slip through the
But
cracks.
he got it. He got it right in the end.
Right. But with Ngata, what I was told was, I kept trying to say, like, why did this guy with this great size, who played at Clemson, who came in as one of their kind of hotshot recruits, why didn't somebody draft him? And I kept getting told, like, yeah, he's got this and that, but his tape was not great at Clemson. It was not it didn't match what he was supposed to be. Right. I think you can sort of compare this with Ringo, the cornerback who came out of Scottsdale as like the #1 cornerback recruit in the country, and he was supposed to be amazing at Alabama, and he played, but the tape didn't match right what was supposed to be. And with wide receivers, since they're so dime a dozen, I guess that's how a guy can slip through the cracks. Yeah, you played at Clemson. Yeah, you had a couple of nice games, but your career was just okay. And then you wind up focusing on other positions. This might wind up being a good, I don't want to call it a steal. It just might wind up being like a good find, like you said. Good,
Yeah, we'll
good
see.
job by the scouting department. But
yeah, look,
but you would wonder why it's like the light turned on now, or is it just that he's playing against backups? I don't know.
We checked in on my tour here. I've ran into some personnel people around the league, and there a couple guys told me there's some character knocks on them. They weren't really specific what happened with that, but it's lack of big numbers. He's not as fast at all, but he's a big body. He knows how to get open. But it's a great story because now again, he hasn't made the team yet. We'll see.
Yep.
But to show up in every practice, man, that shows character. Like, I don't know what the character knocks are on him, but it doesn't matter anymore. This guy's clearly motivated and he's got his stuff together. Because again, if you look at last year, right? Mm-hmm. So Josh Schills had made it, and then obviously he had his off the field issue, but he made it. Blankenship, and what a great find he was. Josh Jobe made it. Now, right as of now, he's the third corner. Were there any other? That's three. Was there a fourth last year? Looking.
No, it was McPherson, right?
Who's drafted? I'm just talking about undrafted guys.
Oh, undrafted? No, it was Jobe.
Okay, so three guys made it, and then remember, Jack Stoll is their wide tight end. And he nailed it. He made it. No one even can challenge him. He's that good.
Not to mention that one of their best defensive players, TJ Edwards, was an undrafted free agent that they had.
Great job by whoever their scouts are. I mean, I hope Howie pays him well or whatever. But Jeffrey does. Technically, he signs the checks. But that's good, man. And look, you go back to Corey Clement, Super Bowl hero. I mean, this is great for the scouting department, and kudos to those guys.
100%. All right, it's Ocean Casino Resort's 5th birthday this summer, and they can't wait to celebrate with you. So join Ocean for exciting promotions and sweepstakes, headline entertainment, the best day life and nightlife lineup in AC, the debut of the birthday bar, exclusive local collabs and partnerships, commemorative 5th birthday merchandise, and so much more. Don't miss stunning fireworks and unique events all summer long. Ocean Rewards members will enjoy over $5 million in gifts and prizes. So be sure to sign up for an Ocean Rewards card to get on the fun next time you visit. All right, we did talk about the running backs a little bit. I mean, we got into Gainwell and Scott not playing. We talked about Swift, who, I mean, there's not much to say. You saw what DeAndre Swift can do when the ball is in his hands. I think Eagles fans will be pretty excited when they see him on the field this year.
I know he broke it outside, but he did because he made one guy miss and he broke it out.
Great jump cut.
Oh, it's incredible because he got knocked. Personnel people around the league that, they're not saying he's afraid to run inside. He just doesn't feel so confident running inside like Gainwell does. That's okay. This guy's dynamic. I mean, his lateral agility is ridiculous. My God, if he stays healthy, I know it's out there. There's some people on social media. I give these, I don't know, they're Eagle fans, and they're right. If these guys stay healthy, I thought it was preposterous when they said it, but I'm going to have to admit that I might be wrong on this one. If these guys stay healthy by miracle, Penny, Swift, Gainwell's been durable. Tough inside runner. Sanders had a great season, but Sanders can't do what Swift can do in the run game. He also can't break it outside like Swift can. Gainwell's an inside grinder. Maybe he becomes more dynamic for the pass game because they're going to throw him more to the backs. And then you got Penny's ridiculous when he breaks a run off at any time. This could be really interesting. Now, again, we don't know about Brian Johnson as a play caller yet. Way too early, although I thought he called a good game here. Obviously not a big sample, but maybe these people are going to be right. I was skeptical when people said that, but when I see Swift up close, going to practice, you went to practice, Andrew's been to practice. This dude's really talented.
Yeah, he's smooth. I mean, I think that they have to figure out a way to get the ball in his hands as either a runner or a receiver at least 11 to 12 times a game. I mean, that's not overusing a guy. Yeah, I mean, it's easy to say that, but then you also have to get Penny, you also have to get Gainwell. I mean,
I'm not saying that he's Marshall Faulk, but I remember Dick Vermeil saying on because I guess after they won that Super Bowl, so they do the series of Super Bowl champions, and Dick said he would tap Mike Martz on the shoulder, but did not forget. You go, hey, get Marshall the football.
Right.
I just thought it was funny. Like literally in the game, it was, hey, Marshall, hello. Get him the ball.
Like we got a good running back too, you know.
You know what? That goes on your point. Yeah, you have to monitor his stats because he's got a big injury history, but the guy's so dynamic. Eagles don't have anyone else like him. Penny's more unbelievable straight line speed, or one cut and upfield.
Right.
Swift, his ability to make guys miss and to turn his hips is just ridiculous. I cannot tell you what it's like to watch this guy in practice. I'm like, you shake your head, you go, wow, I haven't seen this here before.
I tell you, Rashad Penny, who had a 10-yard run. I mean, he looked pretty good. 3.8 per carry is way low than is normal, but he's again behind like a third string line. But Rashad Penny, the way he runs in a Shanahan offense where you just need that one back cut and go, could probably put up 2,500 rushing yards in a 17-game season if he could stay healthy.
Mike Anderson did. Mike Anderson.
I know, right?
Atlantis Gary, Mike Anderson, Terrell Davis made the Super Bowl, the Hall of Fame with it.
Right. Ruben Drowns, I think, got 1,000 yards in that system once. Ruben Drowns, remember him?
Oh, Ruben Drones. Oh my
Drones, yep.
Yeah.
And then Alfred Morris with Kyle Shanahan, right? Yeah.
He was good for fantasy. Gosh, 6th rounder of Florida Atlantic, but
Clinton Portis.
Folks, what's that?
Clinton Portis, another who was really good.
Yeah.
So you combine that's what I'm saying. Rashad Penny in that kind of offense would probably be something the world is not ready for. If he
right, and this is not your Shanahan offense. It's sort of a Sirianni from someone who coached with him, and Indy told me that it's more of a combo offense. He takes a blend of the like Todd Haley was a mentor of his. Haley's offense, which goes back to Ron Earhart, and then he takes some other schemes that he's coaching. Anyway, through this forward here, there was like that's why we're so excited to talk about this one because there's so many. There was some stuff with the offensive line of breakdowns, but Ngata, Swift, Penny looked good. Oh, he limped off a little bit, and then he came back.
Yeah,
and Tyree Cleveland. We'll get to the receivers in a minute. Greg Ward's very active. It's too bad he can't play more than slot. That kind of limits him. But
don't you feel like if Greg Ward doesn't make the Eagles 53, that there's probably a team that could use him, like a team that's not very good, that needs a few veterans. I tell you, the Green Bay Packers, right? We were talking about this in the fantasy football preview. They have a lot of young receivers who are probably going to be good someday if Jordan Love's good, right? Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs. They just brought in the tight end, Musgrave. They drafted. I feel like Greg Ward would be perfect. Like, remember when we said 2 years ago the Eagles needed an adult in the room at their young
2020. If you remember, that year we were literally crying every week doing that show because the receiver room was so bad.
Yeah, it was very young. Yeah,
Fulgham, Hightower, who is with the Chargers. He's pushing for a spot, by the way.
Well, he had ability. We knew that, you know.
Well, I mean, that room was so immature. Rager, it was Hightower, it was Quez. We detailed all their issues. People challenged us, and then they admitted we were right.
Yeah.
And then Greg Ward was the one guy. I remember remember that staff, like they like Greg Ward as a guy. He's a very quiet guy. He's not what you call a leader, but he's very professional, good person and all that. High character guy. He was the only adult that they had in that room then. And then Deshaun came in, but Shaun is not quite a leader, but obviously a veteran.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is, Greg Ward this is his, I keep saying 6 years. It's 7th year.
7th year. Yeah, man.
What don't these coaches, I don't know what it is. I don't know.
I think it's the opposite. I think that the fact that they really like him, I mean, we know what he is as a receiver is not with what the Eagles have now, and A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Goddard, there's really not.
He does get open.
Yeah, but he gets open like in the middle where they have guys already getting open, So the fact that they keep bringing him back, I think, is a testament to what they do think of him. But honestly, I think of the Packers and how young they are. Yeah. Plus, he could be Justin Fields on the look team for them, twice a year.
I like that. Yeah. Hey, for the Packers, they're I've never seen this before.
Mm-hmm.
The Packers do not have a vested veteran at tight end or receiver. That's like, it's almost hard to believe with a young quarterback.
Yeah, I know.
Why would you? That's on your point. That's a great point. I mean, he's vested, so he doesn't get waived. The contract gets terminated.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of feel bad for the guy because those coaches in 2020 got pressed to play him because they just didn't have anyone else. They didn't trust him. He put up numbers, but he can't play anything other than slot. He's a very cautious punt returner, and he's not explosive. He just gets open a short area. That counts.
Yeah.
But, oh well.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I also feel like he probably goes to sleep at night. You know, he's made decent money by playing 7 years. I think he got a Super Bowl ring, didn't he?
Well, 17, yeah. And I remember
Yeah.
us begging the coaches to play him. I don't know
Yeah.
what the hell the problem was. I don't know. I just remember like being embarrassed. I was saying this. I remember saying on our show, would they bleep and play the guy? Some kids are just not ready. They needed a veteran in that room.
Yeah.
Remember when we said when they made the trade, when they drafted Smith and they made the trade for Brown, this is complete opposite of what they had in 2020.
100%.
Became super type A, competitive and great. Remember they had Pascal, who's a tough guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Total role reversal.
It wasn't good in 2020. That was on him, but man, he completely changed it.
100% he did. All right, so we'll move on from the offense. We'll get into the defense. First, I want to pause real quick to hear from some of our great sponsors. All right, as we look at the defense, Adam, unfortunately, the Eagles lost somebody for the year in Shaun Bradley, who was competing to be an inside linebacker, has been a special teams contributor. I would say an up and down special teams contributor at times. And I don't know that he would have made the 53, but the bottom line is he's, out with the Achilles injury now. And, we probably won't hear from him for quite until next year. And I hate to see this for guys, man. I really, really hate to see it.
Here's the problem. It's last year's rookie deal.
Yep. The worst time. Yeah.
And you know who represents him? Former Eagles linebacker, Barry
Gardner. Yeah.
So feel bad for Shaun. He's generally only plays on special teams. He would play an emergency at linebacker. Mm-hmm. But their coverage teams now take a hit. Sidney Brown was a gunner in this game, and we'll talk more about him later. But he showed up.
Oh boy, did he! Yeah,
it was pretty cool. So they started with a little bit of a different front. It was the 2D tackle Davis and Williams. Barnett was the DN. And again, it's preseason. I don't read too much into this. But the line was different. They didn't start with the typical 3 defensive tackles. So,
right.
But again, it's not a regular season game.
Right. So the first play of the game, was it on defense? Jalen Carter showed you that nice rip move with his hand, and he just bullied the right guard. Yeah, when he came in. I'm sorry.
He didn't start. You know what's insane? When have you ever seen this? 2 players in the game. Last name was Cleveland.
Oh yeah, Ben Cleveland and Tyree. That is
lit up by Carter. Oh my God, what a move! That was an Ndamukong Suh move. Arm over, get the hell out of here, get out of my face. And that was an awesome move. That was a beautiful move. You could see on the TV copy. I probably watched that thing 20 times. It's just I'm just like, because he's not the flash player that Jordan Davis is. Jordan Davis literally can lift the guy from throw him. But this guy is so strong and violent with his hands. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah. I love your Ndamukong Suh comparison. The way his style is. It's not going to be all pass rush. It's not going to be all runs. It's going to be a nice blend of both, which is what Suh was. I mean, he was really your one of your better all-around defense. Kind of Fletcher Cox-ish too. I mean, Fletcher Cox may have had a little bit more juice as a pass rusher. I don't know. That's yet to be
longer body.
Yeah, we'll see.
Maybe a little longer body, but this guy is such a bully up front.
Yeah. Violent hands. You can see it.
Violent hands. And when I talked about this after they drafted him, I'm like, this is the next Ndamukong Suh. He's very similar body type. He's a bully. We detailed some things that happened with his career and with teammates and throwing guys down and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But he's got him. We know about the off the field issue. It's writing us about that. But everything we've heard, he's doing a great job. He's very serious about his job. And this is they got. I get it. He may not be the pass rusher that Hargrave is, but if you look at the some of the parts here, Cox, Davis, Milton Williams is a good 3. Carter is unbelievably gifted. Containment Street, we don't talk about him a lot. He's got a real chance to make the team. Ojomo showed up this game a little bit.
Yeah.
Showed up in practice. Janoris Robinson had a good quality rush. We never talk about him other than we keep saying he looks like a pass. He's got the typical build you want. This D-line, man, could be nasty again. I don't know about 70 sacks, but in terms of talent and depth, they've got it.
Well, yeah, I think that's their blueprint is going to be tough up front, get a lot of pass rushers in. I don't want to make any declarations now, but I feel like from a personnel standpoint, they should be more equipped to stop the run or better equipped to stop the
Yes.
run. As long as Jordan Davis is healthy, I still think they need a backup nose. We'll talk about that more when we get into the season if they don't have one. But in general, I think that they'll be a better equipped to be a better run defense on first and second down. And then I'm really, fascinated to see what kind of sub packages they pull out. They have a lot of different options. I think they still have to explore and find out what they've got in whether it's the extra linebacker or the extra DB. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But I do think they're with Jalen Carter there and Jordan Davis a little bit more conditioned. Milton Williams, you mentioned, Contavious, if he makes it. I mean, they've got some guys I think that will be a little bit more what's the word I'm looking for? A little bit more
Committed to the
ambitious, committed to stopping the run. I'm not trying to slam Javon Hargrave, but I mean, we have said
showed
that.
it.
Yeah, he was trying to get the sacks.
His effort was not good against the run.
Right.
I don't know if he's a contract drive. We don't know him, so we can only go about what we know what the tape looked like. The technique. He lost his technique, and that was on him. It wasn't a coaching issue. But look, this group's good, and Derek Barnett's all the way back. We know he's a good run game guy.
Yeah, I thought he looked pretty good too, Adam. I thought he looked
healthy.
like a guy, not like a guy coming off an injury. That was good.
Good. Yeah, I don't want to say a good camp. What it is the effort's there.
Yep.
And that
How about Nolan Smith playing as much on special I know everybody's making a big deal about how much he got out there early in the game, but also playing on special teams. I think that was pretty interesting. It shows you the range of what this kid can do.
Because he's not a starter, so they're not looking at him, oh, you're a first round pick. You can't play on specials. He played 14 snaps in specials. He showed up, no doubt about it. He's explosive. He's had a very nice camp. I'm so fascinated to see what Shaun Desai will do with him. As a joker player, he's played some inside linebacker, aka off the ball. He's done that. We'll get to Myles Jack and the other linebackers for this, but it was good to see him. He's probably, if we rank who the players we're most excited about in the regular season to see, Swift would be my guy in offense. I'm trusting what we've seen, what we think is going to happen, and logic. And then Nolan Smith, man, from what you saw in OTAs, which you detailed very well from that one practice, what you and I have seen and Andrew have seen in training camp and what we've heard, and man, it's this kid. If Desai gets it right, I don't care if he's a rookie. This could be fun.
Right. Listen, we talk about this a lot with prospects, right? There's two things here. There's your timed speed and your strength, your measurable strength, versus your play speed and your play strength. Nolan Smith's play speed and time speed match up really well. He's got NFL edge rusher elite speed that's going to, I believe, manifest pretty quickly. You just mentioned about Shaun Desai, and I agree. If you put him in the right spots, make him a joker, line him up, and just let him go, you're going to see great speed. However, and we're hearing this, you're also hearing the Eagles offensive lineman talk about it a little bit. His play strength needs to get better, which is very common among rookies, light rookies. Now, don't confuse that. I just want to be clear.
Yeah.
He's a physical player. He's a willing tackler. He sticks his nose in there. It's not that he's not willing to do all those things. He is. They just want to see him physically get a little stronger, because when you get your hands on him, you can move. I mean, he's not a big, huge guy. So his strength has to once his strength matches what he can do from speed, you might wind up getting an amazing player.
So on your point, so more than one of the teams I spoke with when I was on my tour here last week said to me, the issue that you had with him, you worried about him because they didn't think the word around the league was the teams were worried about him playing with his hand down. They thought he's too small. And you drive it, you double team him, he's going to be thrown away, like he's going to be squashed.
Sure,
he's small, like you said, and you said that the play strength, the point of attack could be a problem, but that's okay. Play him standing up off the ball. I mean, play him as a 34 outside linebacker, which the Eagles will do anyway. Or if they play with a 5-man front, you could also lean him back a little bit so he doesn't get engulfed. The guy's play speed is ridiculous. His pursuit is ridiculous. Look, his pursuit is not quite Reddick. Reddick is special. Like, there's very few players who could pursue like Reddick, but this guy is pretty gifted. My prediction is the league's going to be wrong on him because he's so gifted. If Shaun Desai is a good coach, he's going to figure this out with his assistants and get this guy in the field and help him be special.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think as a rookie, if you can get him on the field in situational pass rush, right? So that you're not having him trying to stop the run and get a double team, right? But also then because you're limiting to like situational pass rush, you get him on special teams and he's helping your coverage units, right? Or your return units, probably your coverage units. Yeah, then that's great. I mean, you're going to help improve two really important facets of your team while you're also getting him stronger, getting him acclimated to the NFL, so that by year 2 and 3, as you said, you're hoping he's blossoming, and all of a sudden he's looking like a steal as the 30th overall pick.
Yeah, and look, they will play some 43, so they're you could play him as a strong side linebacker. If they put Reddick with his hand, there's different. You got to be creative, figure it out with them. It's a really good problem to have. It's just to figure out how to get this guy on the field and help him be special. So,
right,
that was. Janoris Robinson, boy, that he had one rush which was really good. I'm looking forward to seeing how they. I know that he's a long shot to make it, but maybe he makes it interesting for them going forward. He played a lot, by the way. He had 35 snaps.
Yes. All right, linebacker, really quick, coverage linebacker, inside stack linebacker. Obviously, Nakobe Dean did not play. I don't know if he would have played anyway, but he was dealing with the injury that he was coming back from, so he did not. I would think he'll play in the preseason at some point, though. I mean, you got to he doesn't have that many.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah. So Ellis and Morrow started.
Right.
Yeah, there was one play with Ellis. He got kind of stuck with feet, maybe.
Yeah,
the wrong false step, but he's had a good camp, man. This is another one. What's that?
I can concur. I've been told they're happy with his development.
He's got good size. He could run. I don't know what happened at Idaho State, but this guy, I don't know why he wasn't drafted. Look, he's not perfect, but he's got size. He could run. This guy, man, I'd be stunned if he doesn't make the team.
Yeah, I think I would be surprised too. I mean, I think obviously Nakobe makes it. I think Christian Ellis will be there. Obviously, Shaun Bradley's not in the picture any longer. Ben Van Sumeren has quickly gone from like your top reserve, which was not a good situation, to now kind of further down the pecking chart. He did have a lot of tackles in the game, but I guess we'll have to see how the Zach Cunningham, Myles Jack operation works itself out. I mean, I would imagine Zach Cunningham, unless he falls on his face here, is going to make this team.
I mean, he's pretty much stopper. Now Jack looks healthy.
He does look healthy. Yeah,
we'll see.
But Ellis has got to be on it. I'd be really surprised if Ellis. And I know. Look, I think they wanted to see development, and they've seen it.
So Ellis, Dean or 2, either Jack or Cunningham is 3. Bradley's done for the season. Van Sumeren, I don't see it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, geez, there's still now Morrow. We'll see. He needs to show off.
Oh, I forgot.
A little bit better.
Yeah.
See, their numbers are still not great there, but they have adequate numbers now. But we got to see what happens with Jack and Cunningham both play this game, and we'll get a better idea. We need I'll be at practice tonight and tomorrow, and we'll find out what the Cleveland tape looks like, and the other, and we'll see how they do the rest of the summer here. But it's pretty important that these guys get on the field. They sure did this game.
Yeah, my hunch would be that there is not a single linebacker on this team other than Nakobe Dean, not named Nakobe Dean, that the Eagles would feel they can't waive and bring back to the practice squad. I think that, 2 guys just got signed off the street.
Yeah,
Morrow, they gave 0 guaranteed money.
He's contract terminated, so he wouldn't go for waiver.
Right. Well, that's a good point. So I think that that whatever moves they make, I think they're pretty confident whoever has to go can probably come back.
Van Sumeren waive. Right. I don't see anyone playing with him.
Yeah. No, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah. And then,
all right, let's go ahead. I was going to say we can.
That would be it for linebacker that we saw. And we'll get the DBs in there.
Yeah, we'll get the DBs in a second. First, I want to remind everybody to check out our friends at PHLSportsNation.com, enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams for the fan, by the fan. That's their motto, so make sure you check them out at PHLSportsNation.com, on Twitter at PHLSportsNation. Let's also hear a word from Sky Motor Cars.
Sky Motor Cars in Westchester is a different sort of dealership. All it takes is one look at their Highline pre-owned vehicles that people all over the country want and need. Owner Brett Schulter makes sure you don't spend a dime of your money before you purchase the car. Sky Motor Cars allows you to make all the decisions regarding your next vehicle. At Sky Motor Cars, you never have to spend more than necessary. Visit SkyMotorCars.com today or call 610-918-7225.
And if you happen to stop in the Sky Motor Cars out there in Westchester, PA, make sure you tell them Adam and Geoff sent you. You will get a great deal. All right. Well, I mean, all eyes were on the secondary, right? All these young corners, developmental
cool,
corners
man.
that the Eagles have. Yeah, safety,
Right.
same thing. It was pretty cool. Josh Jobe is a guy who's performing well, Adam. I mean, he made the team last year. It shouldn't be a surprise. I think he's done well enough to, so far, feel pretty good about making the team again.
He's a third corner right now.
Yeah, he is.
He is. This is a guy that, I mean, we talked to a lot of teams because this guy we knew about for the draft last year and kept hearing character stuff. Don't know about him and all this. All I could tell you is the guy's been glue in coverage. And he's done very well. He's clearly ahead of Greedy Williams. Been not wild, but inconsistent in training camp.
Yeah.
McPherson's, the backup slot. Keely Ringo is started this game. They started with three corners.
Threw at him a decent amount.
Yeah, look, they made their plays. Some of the guys gave up plays, gave up 2 touchdowns, but there's talent here with these young kids. And look, Joba's, and again, they got it. This is a good story here. And it's looking good. I mean, it's looking good for him. And we'll see about Greedy Williams. I think you said it. In fact, when we did our too early 53, I think you talked about him. He may not make it. You said 3 months ago, and by the way, I'm with you now. Now the percentage he'll make because he's a veteran, but his contract, the guarantee is so low in his contract, they're not going to keep on the team.
Yeah, no, I mean, we've seen some guys like go back to Patrick Robinson. All of a sudden, kick it in. So you don't want to close the door on anybody, but as it was put to me, Josh Jobe has been the best of their added corners. When of their outside corners not named James Bradbury and Darius Slay. So it's been a good find for them.
Ricks had the touchdown. It was nice. He read the quarterback's eye. Did a good job there.
Yeah.
The knock on him is his body type. He's very thin. People in scouting around the league we've talked to about him, you're worried about him holding up, but he's long. There's not been any talk that we've heard about him being a safety, but he needs to get stronger physically. But there's talent there. Again, the guy was a good college corner. He was undrafted. Garner's had his moments in camp. I know he was the guy who gave one of the touchdowns, but Mario Goodrich has had his moments. These young kids my prediction would be 2 of them. Well, we know Jobe's making it. Mm-hmm. One of those other guys will definitely make it. I just couldn't tell you who it'll be yet.
Well, the deal is, and this is the conundrum that they face, is that Keely Ringo is a 4th-round pick.
Yeah.
And as it was put to me, he's not really, showing off right now. For a 4th-round pick, you get mixed results anyway, but he's clearly not in Josh Jobe terrain right now, and probably not in Mario Goodrich terrain either, or even Mekhi Garner, who has had some nice snaps in practice and preseason. So are they just going to get rid of a guy they picked in the 4th round? Probably not. So he's probably going to wind up forcing somebody off the team. But again, these corners too, I'm guessing the Eagles think, like, even if they waive a guy like Goodrich or waive a guy like Greedy Williams or he would be terminated, that they'll probably be able to bring that person back still and be on the practice squad. They've got a good history. The only guy we've ever sort of joked about them losing was the tight end Noah Togiai, right? From way back when.
It's funny because he's now with, of all people, Jonathan Gannon in Arizona.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah.
Or Casey Toohill.
That was a mistake. The guy's still.
It's not like Casey Toohill's out there getting 10 sacks a year.
I get it, but that's still a guy that's made it. The knock on him, the Toohill was too kind of long, and he's a DN and not stout at the point of attack. But look, he's still in the league. He's been in Washington's roster ever since. So
yeah. Well, if I'm a team that's so deep at defensive end that I can waive Casey Toohill, another team gets him, I probably think, well, that's just because I'm that good at the end, or edge rusher.
Sure, but
But yeah, but like the point is, they generally get it right as far as, you're waving this
we
guy
kind
out
of got
nice
right,
yeah,
right.
yeah,
And honestly, the reason why they were not happy because they thought nobody. Remember, we talked about this 3 years ago. People make fun of us, but Togi was so good in training camp, and wide tight ends. You talk to any coach, you're like, oh my god, I'll pay for one at the wide tight end because an inline tight end who can really block it is. Because today's tight ends come out of college are like 245, 240. They don't block very much. They're in spreads. They're standing up. They don't block. And coaches get sick of it. Could you give me someone who can block? And that's why Stahl is like a godsend for this team because he blocks in the day.
Right.
Right. A good find for this team.
Hard to find a guy out of Nebraska who can't block. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
corn-fed guys out of Nebraska, they know how to block.
Hey, man, Dean Steinkuhler and Dave Remington and
Klein Sasser, was he Iowa or was he Nebraska?
No, I don't. Vikings draft. I don't remember where he was.
I forget. All right, safeties, Adam. So we got to talk about Sidney Brown because what you saw from Sidney Brown, who I think led the team with 9 tackles.
He was everywhere, man.
Listen, he showed you exactly what the Eagles knew they were getting. There's no pretense here. They know that he is not a specialty or a specializer in coverage, right? Not going to want to put him in man-on-man situations, but he has juice. He is like a rocket. He's like shot out of a cannon, right?
Here's who he is. I got this one. He is. You might have mentioned it, but someone in scouting within our team mentioned it because this is what he saw when he watched it. This guy said he watched his college tape. He's very much like Hufanga, the safety of the Niners.
Yes, that's a good one.
Very similar. He's not a great coverage safety, but he's a knife.
Yeah.
He's a first and second level defender. He's not a third level defender, which means deeper downfield.
Right.
But you could win with guys like this who are short tacklers. Did you see the one where he knifed it and he almost took the guy's legs off?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Insane.
Yeah. So look, they know coverage, single coverage is not his thing, right? They also know he's going to sometimes over pursue. He's very fast. He's going to over pursue, and he's probably going to miss a tackle here and there based on that. But when you watched him, right, compare him to what you're seeing from Terrell Edmonds, Kevon Wallace, any other kind of box types. It's not even close. The guy has juice, and that kind of guy you can work with.
Yeah.
You can coach him up, and you can also mask his coverage limitations. They're not going to blitz a whole lot. The Eagles, they're not going to blitz.
By the way, but he can blitz.
My point was they're not going to leave him in man-to-man situations with wide receivers, right? Because they're blitzing and they need it, right?
Sure.
They're going to put him in a zone. There are some man concepts within zone that he'll be able to handle, I would imagine, or sometimes he'll get exposed, but he's just going to bring some electricity to that backfield. Him and Reed Blankenship, Adam, who can run fairly well for the position. Not a great athlete, but he knows where to be, and that helps him. Right. Yes.
Blankenship is a step slow, but he's smart. He's, as you said, he's instinctive. I know Cosell was not a fan of Sidney Brown because Greg just went by the coaching tape, and it showed that he's a box safety. The only time he was in coverage is when the guy was around him. This is the way he played.
Right.
Some people in the league could not give this guy a high grade, even if the Eagles drafted the third. We know if we've talked to had a 5 and 6 on him because I know it's about projecting, but the Eagles clearly thought there's a special ability. You saw this Baltimore game; he's everywhere. He's a gunner in specials. This kid's got unbelievably physical, super high character, incredible for your locker room. But he's a really talented football player. But there are some limitations.
Yes,
as of now. Now, as he grows here, as he gets coached up, we find ways, as you said, to cover up some of his deficiencies, but they don't have that big time coverage guy like Gardner Johnson. That's just what you have to accept. They don't have that guy.
I completely agree with you.
That's where they're at.
There will be times where that sticks out like a sore thumb. There's no doubt about it. I think Greg Cosell would be the first to say he's a fan of any player whose skills are being accentuated in the right system. Right, every player can only function best when they're put in position to succeed. Like I said, the Eagles are probably not going to ask Sidney Brown to cover somebody 20, 30 yards down the field because he's against a slot receiver or a fast tight end because they're throwing 7 men at the quarterback. No,
you can't do
they're going to put him in the right position and allow those skills that he does have that are good to shine through. So I think Greg even would understand that.
I'm going to call him this week. I'll see if he watched the preseason tape. If he did already, He probably watch it this morning, but knowing him. But if he did, I'll be very interested to see. I'm not expecting him to change his mind after one game, but did he see anything? Wow, okay, this really popped off the tape to me. I'm very curious, so
Yeah.
I'll get his opinion.
Like, I'm not sure Sidney Brown is the guy you want to play in Todd Bowles' defense, right? Because Todd's going to blitz the crap and out of everybody from everywhere. You could use him as a blitzer, like you said. He'd probably be good at that. But I don't know if he'd be out there covering left and right.
Oh, the guy who doesn't blitz.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Those guys got to be able to
Yeah.
cover, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. But I think for what the Eagles do, which is a predominantly zone structure, I think Sidney Brown, they'll put him at, whether it's the third safety or rotating him into the box, they'll figure it out. And again, he'll make mistakes. He'll be aggressive. He's super aggressive. And, I kind of think about Ernie Sims, but I feel like this kid plays with.
Oh, don't
better than Ernie Sims.
Dude.
No, I just mean as a guy who's so aggressive that sometimes he missed the tackle or
he's not okay, but he's not Ernie Sims. And I remember Cosell talking. Greg put me on Ernie Sims, and I was the idiot who asked about the Shaun McDermott he called him. So what do you think of Ernie Sims? He's a shark in the water.
Oh boy.
but Greg, and when I would watch, this is decades whenever Ernie Sims first started, I would watch tape with him and Jaws, and they go watch this guy, watch him overrun the play like you just talked about. And it was like the guy he's a coach now, by the way, in college football. But
how about that?
He was so undisciplined.
Yeah.
If you said Brown's not undisciplined, he's just a knife. He's the jackknife.
Right. And then every once in a while it's gonna get the best of him. It's gonna
great way to say it. But I'm telling you, watching him, his energy, and any reporter who's been in practice sees it. You and I, Andrew, have been there. It's pretty cool to watch him do this.
Awesome. All right. So obviously we'll have more from the joint practices leading up to the preseason game against the Browns for our next podcast. I know you had a little intel on the Myles Jack and Zach Cunningham contracts. Obviously, both are a year. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So they basically got, in a way, it all ends at $1.775 million. It's just how they get there. Jack's base salary is a little higher. Mm-hmm. Neither of their salaries are guaranteed. Jack's is $1.165 million. Both players got per game roster bonuses. Both got per game roster bonuses over $30,000 per game. The guarantees and signing bonuses of $25K.
These guys still got more than Nick Morrow.
I know, but it's technically true. You were 100% right. But the Eagles had leverage here because there are they're the two best. Mm-hmm. But this gives these two guys a chance to win a Super Bowl. And if you're Zach Cunningham and Myles Jack, who've been hurt a lot the last couple of years, but they're really talented. It's not like they're 32 years old. It's not like they're that old. They're 27, 28. They've been hurt. But Eagles really need these guys to perform, and they're leaders. They're good people. Played some super high level football, particularly Cunningham against the run. And we'll see how it goes. Again, we're under 4 weeks left. 2 preseason games, 3 joint practices with the Browns and Colts, Western training camp, and then the after preseason practices. So a lot of time left here.
All right. Great. That's going to do it. A lot of intel there, and look forward to doing it more this coming week for joint practices and another preseason game. That's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles intel. As always, we thank you for flying with us inside the birds.